Hi, folks. Welcome to the OKD Working Group meeting for June 6th of 2023. And if you take a couple seconds to look at the agenda, let me know if there's anything that we've missed, anything that needs to be added, removed, etc. We'll take about 30 seconds to look at the agenda. All right, anything that folks see that they want to add, remove, move around? We're good. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. So OKD release and CI/CD updates with Christian, Shireen, Vadim, Luigi, Alex, etc.
Yeah, so we just some feedback on our OKD pipelines. We have the operate first servers that have gone down, and we are in transition on getting the pipelines running on the MOC, the Massachusetts Open Cloud Platform, and that's they are basically being serviced this week. So we won't be able to do a release for OKD for the sprint. So we were planning to do it for Thursday, Friday, and doing a release. We are, however, looking at with one of our staff engineers is looking at trying to stand up a HyperShift cluster for us that we could use maybe for the next. There's Jeremy. So Jeremy could maybe give us some feedback on that. And then we can basically, if that gets commissioned, then we can run our release and SCOS payload pipelines.
Does anyone have any background on why it's our usual platform is down? Why the
well, we were informed that the operate first infrastructure is going to be decommissioned. And and I think it has to do with the whole restructuring of what was happening internally in Red Hat. They were moving resources away, but we were under the impression that they'd keep the services running, but have no admin or anyone looking at any problems on that server. But it looks like in this week, I think maybe with the MOC upgrade as well, they've taken those servers down. So we're not sure if they're going to come back up. We're not sure of how that's going to look, but it was a pity because we're in a really good cadence. The SCOS, we had nightly builds working, all of them working every night, and then the cleanup jobs. And then also every end of sprint, so every 3 weeks we could do a release, and that's been going quite smooth. So it's a bit of a bump, but I'm sure we'll get over it.
It's interesting. I'm not seeing anything on their website about this. It would be good that they would let folks know. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't have any resources for letting the people know, I guess.
Right, exactly. They don't have the resources for that either. Jeremy, is there anything that you wanted to add to this?
No, I started looking at this like an hour ago, so
okay.
Maybe I'll have an update tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay. All right. I have a question now in terms of, Vadim cut a release Saturday, an FCOS release, and this was plagued with the signature issue. And this is like I think second or third time in the past 2 years or so that this has happened, and then people have to do a force upgrade and whatnot. Do folks have any thoughts about, do we want to publicize this and publicize the fix and be prepared to publicize this should it happen again? Because it burned people trying to go from the earlier version of 4.13 to the 6.4 release of 4.13, and people kept asking the same question, and then Vadim and other folks had to chime in and say, yeah, this is a known issue. Is this something we would want to tweet out, like, hey, you have to do a force? It's going to say that it's not a valid update, but just use the force flag and let folks know? Do we want to do a blog post? Do we want to assume that it's such a rare thing that we don't need to do it? What's some feedback from the technical group? And then I'll bring the same question to the community group next week.
Well, if it publicizing it would make support easier, then it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the route that, like, the Kubernetes community has adopted for the same sort of problem when they had signature issues. So, I mean, it doesn't need to be front and center, but in the normal places people would normally look for support, is where I would put it.
Yeah. For folks that don't know what I'm talking about, here's an example from the Slack of someone asking a question and Vadim saying, yeah, this is still applicable. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm up for getting any helpful information to make things easier for people. And if they see, coming up with this problem, where do I look? And if they have a way, a FAQ or whatever it is, or known issues, and they can do a quick search, get the issue and fix it, I think all the better.
Okay. We can add this to the FAQs, assuming the community development group agrees, then we can add this to the FAQs. Should you come upon a signature issue when upgrading, use the force flag.
So, Jamie, what's the underlying cause of this? Is this just something that...
It started a couple weeks ago with the release a couple weeks ago where I think Vadim signed it with the wrong key.
Okay.
A new key was generated. I'll have to look back on it, but basically Vadim accidentally signed it with the wrong key. And so then you've got an issue where you've got two different keys basically floating around.
Okay, so if we actually get this onto the same process as, say, like the SCOS, where the signing becomes an automated part of a pipeline, this problem should largely go away. Okay. Because I think the bigger issue is, how do we try and make sure it doesn't happen again if we've been bitten 2 or 3 times? And transitioning to an automated pipeline suggests it will fix the issue. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's a way on... So the Git pages are populated with the release info in an automated fashion. I don't know that there's a way to insert text into those in an easy fashion that says, like, hey, if this is an upgrade, use the force flag. But that's because that's where people are going to go, is to the list, the release list page, right? But if we inserted some text, at least in the FAQ, maybe in there, then I think we could catch all the people who might get burned by this, theoretically, or a large number of them.
We would want it to expire out, right? Because we wouldn't want this to be like something people ignore, at all times. We want them to pay attention to the signatures in general. We just know that this time around, it's our mistake.
Yeah, and we don't want folks to get into the habit of using force really for any reason, unless they've got an issue. Yeah. All right. Anything else along the lines of OKD release and CI/CD stuff?
No, I don't know. Shireen, Alex, have you got any other?
No, nothing much on my side.
Yeah, not from my side as well.
Okay. All right, moving on now to FCOS updates. Timothy, take it away.
Hey, folks. All right, so I don't really have much today. I don't think we have had any major changes landing recently. We're looking at the Fedora 39 changes in the Fedora Chorus group, so looking at the next version right now, which is going to happen something in 3 months or a little bit more than that. And apart from that, we are going to have tomorrow a discussion about IPsec support in FCOS. So I'll paste the link here, and if you can join, if you're interested in joining the working group discussion, the FCOS working group discussion, we'll talk about that, if we include that into the OS or not, and how do we do things there. So I don't know the support exactly in OKD, but there should be IPsec support for pod-to-pod communication already. So that's more about having IPsec support for clusters, for communication between the clusters and, say, like another network. And yeah, that's about it for me. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. On the on the ESCOS side, we've been working on splitting the OpenShift specific bits from the more system classic system bits. And so this work is moving along. We haven't completed it, but it's in progress.
Excellent. Timothy, is there a place where we could look to get more info about how these are getting separated and broken out? Is there some place you could link us to that would help us sort of get a sense of it?
I can link to a pull request, but so far there aren't that many changes.
Anything that's a reference point for us if we're technically interested to investigate
Sure.
further.
Definitely will link the pull requests.
Cool. Thank you. Anything else on SCOS? FCOS or SCOS? Anyone? Any questions? Feedback? All right. Moving on now to community development updates with Brian.
Okay, so last meeting we had our sort of walk through the board, planning board. The link is in the on the HackMD agenda. I guess an overall comment is there's still quite a lot of documentation work to do. There's also a sort of request, if someone's got time to go and try and work out how the OpenShift documentation process works, because we don't have any tooling for any community members to actually be able to see previews. And that's sort of quite an inhibitor to anybody that wants to actually contribute to the documentation. It doesn't feel right doing a pull request if you don't know if the content that you've changed actually works, or if you've got some syntax errors there or some formatting issues there. So from community members, we ideally need to try and work out what happens under the covers at Red Hat to actually convert the Git repo into the actual documentation site. A few people have had a little play around with the open source tooling, and we've not yet got it to work. So if anyone has some spare time and wants to go play around with that and try and figure it out, ideally we're looking for maybe a containerized solution where someone can just pull the container, put the changes through it, and get a preview website. A little bit like we've got for the MKDoc stuff for the community website. And that plugs into a number of areas where documentation needs to be updated. So until that happens, we're still using the process where we raise an issue, and then we have to work with Michael Burke to actually get the changes made. And it's just a little bit clunky because he has to take screenshots and for reviews, and so that's that. I noticed that we are going to talk about the next working group. So next week is going to be a working group session. Ideally, we want it on the OKD operator catalog, but there is sort of a pre-requirement that we need some of the key attendees from within Red Hat to make that meeting sort of worthwhile. So the question was, I know that the meeting times are a problem for some people. So if we can't get the Red Hat people attending, we would need to try and find a different time for the meeting. So I think that is still an open question. Is it worth going ahead with the meeting next week? And will we have sort of the required people at the meeting? I put a link in the chat to the planning item. I went and created a small demo where you could go and create an operator. I took one of the existing operators and just prove to myself that it can be done, and we can create a catalog and we can add it, and it shows up and it works. So I think that's for next week. So we'll talk about that after this item. Just check that we can actually run that. Other than that, just there's lots on the board. If you've got some time and want to sort of contribute, go pick a ticket and please come help out. If you need any more information, I'm on Slack. You can ping me, and I'll help you understand or help get started with things. I think that's. Yep.
And one of the things that came out of this is we do have a volunteer to help sort of be our security issue traffic director person to sort of forward things to the appropriate place if folks have security issues that they come across, which is maybe not as important or referenced as much now, but I think as things move forward, it'll be nice to have someone on the team, on the working group, who's knowledgeable about, okay, this is a bug related, this is a security issue related to this bug or this known security issue on the Red Hat side, or on the on the OCP side, or on the FCOS side or SCOS side or whatever, and be able to direct folks to, hey, here's some information about it. Here's where we can submit if it's an unknown, if it's a new issue that's not known yet by others, things like that. So that was really helpful. And they've also volunteered, same person has volunteered to do some other work as well. So the more volunteers, the better, because we do have a really full board. Anything else? Any thoughts or comments on community stuff, folks?
Brian, when you say next week there's this meeting about the catalogs, when is it? I didn't find the invite.
Okay, so it's going to be, what we do now is we use the community meeting, which is this time, but every other week. So we have the technical meeting, and then the alternate weeks we have the community meeting. We're using every other community meeting as a working session.
Okay.
We just found that we were doing a lot of talking and things weren't happening in between. So we're trying to turn every alternate community meeting into actually a working group where we can actually tackle one of the tickets on the board and try and move it forward.
Okay. Okay, so we'll try to see if there's anyone who's more knowledgeable about catalogs within Red Hat who can tag along.
That would be fantastic, because I think ultimately we need everyone to start with a base level of knowledge about how the catalogs work and the task ahead, and then we can, once everyone's at that level, then we can have a conversation about like how to populate it and process around populating it.
Yeah, I also think we need somebody from the release side, because just like we were talking earlier about the signature, obviously we need the catalog to be properly signed so people can trust the content of it. So just as we do an OKD release, we need the catalog to have that same level of signature. And again, the pipeline, I think, is very important. We want this to be fully automated. We don't want any manual processes. It should be all driven from Git and fully automated to actually update the catalog from a Git source. So I think the work that Luigi, Shireen, you did with the SCOS is going to be very valuable, because we need a similar type of pipeline activity within the operator catalog. But as Jamie said, I think the first point is make sure everyone has a base knowledge and we understand what we can do, what we want to do, and put a roadmap in place.
I remember, but I don't know if it's still there. There's an operator pipeline repo under OKD project, and if I remember correctly, it does create a catalog as well as the operator.
Yeah, so it was the one that I did in the last shift week. So it builds from scratch. It'll build your your operator bundles, do the index, and then basically push it into a catalog at the end, and push that catalog to a repo. Sorry, a registry. So it's very opinionated. It's based on our simple operators that we built. It needs a lot of work, but it could be a baseline to look at going forward. Yeah.
Okay, I've got the link to it. I'll put it in the meeting notes, and I'll also put it there. That's the repo in question. All right. Any other thoughts on operators? Shireen, can you let us know maybe ahead of time so that we have like a day or two to decide if the meeting should be on operators or not? Is that reasonable? Maybe let us know Monday morning.
Sure.
Okay, fantastic.
So Shireen, are you going to reach out to find out if we can get one of the OLM guys or one of those?
I'm gonna try my luck.
Okay.
Thank you, Shireen.
To do the charm, you know.
Whatever works. Because it's been, the operator thing has been lingering for so long now, and we really want to address it. And I think we're starting to build the momentum, right? And once we have the knowledge, then we'll have even more momentum because folks will feel comfortable contributing. All right. Anything else on the community development? Oh, survey is basically done. There's 3 questions that are getting added, or two more questions that are getting added, and then that's going out this week. And I think that's it for community stuff. Is there anything else that folks want to talk about while we're on the call together? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and feel free to reach out to us if any questions arise, and we'll see you in the Slack, on the Matrix, on Twitter, and all the great places where we get together. All right. See you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.